I'm really happy to be part of this project because Ruth translated my project, and I was happy that this Ansami Leila was chosen to be part of this project. Ansami Leila is a book that comes from a personal experience, and that's why it's one of my favorite stories, and it's a friendship experience that was so intense and so beautiful that I had to write it. And I met an artist, and she was deaf. And before I met her, to be honest, I would never think of this cause or spreading the cause of hearing difficulties. But what happened with me, it was just simple. I didn't try hard to communicate with her. I just didn't try to talk to her. We didn't connect with each other until we started an email relationship. And then I realized, oh, what a wonderful friend she is. She's witty, she's passionate, she's curious. Only because I didn't try harder, didn't speak the sign language, didn't. So this book is all about this story. It's about trying harder to communicate when we speak different languages. And in that case, we're talking about sign language. I actually did not want to portray Leila, the deaf princess, as someone who is with disability. I just wanted to portray her as someone who speaks different languages, the sign language. So in the book, she is not the other here. She is not an outsider who's struggling with the society. She's an empowered protagonist who's confident that she speaks her own language. And actually, the prince, Sami, that's the prince, he's the one who's struggling. And he's the one who's trying to talk to her. He's the one not understanding what's going on until she found the solution. So she is an empowered female, actually, in the book. And this is exactly what happened in the friendship with this girl that I met, the artist. I felt like she's the one who's empowered and I'm the one who struggled. And that's what I feel when it comes to hearing difficulties. I feel like it's really our job to learn the sign language and to fit in with their group, not the other. So that's basically what the book is all about. Yeah.
And now I pass on to Deborah, who's translated from the Korean for this project, so she'll introduce the book that she's translated.
Yes. Hi. So for me, it was actually interesting to be involved in this project for slightly different reasons to everybody else on this panel, which is that I haven't been at all immersed or involved in children's literature, either as a translator or just in my personal life. I translate exclusively adult literary fiction. I think the last time I had a conversation with a child was when I was also a child. So that was definitely something different for me, but I was also excited originally when they approached me because I had heard that children's literature in Korea was particularly well thought of, and of course I spent a lot of time in Korean bookshops and I'd seen the physical objects. I hadn't really read through many of them, but I could see that they were very beautiful objects. They had very high production values. They looked to me quite old-fashioned compared to a lot of the children's books that I would see in shops over here, sort of, ink illustrations or pencil drawings, not so many bright colours, usually more human figures than animals. And so I translated 3 books for this project, and they were more on the accessible side rather than inclusive, so the actual storylines didn't necessarily feature characters with disabilities, but one particular book that I translated called 12 Birds, that is text alongside a picture book, and the illustrations themselves are partly incorporating the Korean Braille alphabet. So it is a picture book where the Braille translation is not only making the text accessible to someone who is sight impaired, but is also giving them an idea of the pictures at the same time, which I thought was a really great idea, and also great to have the text there, you know, with the braille at the same time. So it's not just accessible for children who are sight impaired, it's also accessible for them as well as everyone else, which I thought was really great. And the actual storyline itself, it's a bit of a stretch to call it a storyline, like quite a lot of Korean books for younger readers. It's quite abstract, quite whimsical. It's based around this idea of 12 birds, 12 different birds, each loosely representing a particular feeling, or a particular feeling that might be linked towards a season or a time of day. And it's addressed directly to the reader, whoever the reader is, so it's saying you. And it's saying things like, there's one line, when you feel like you want to boast about something, then you call your friend the peacock, which is apparently a particularly boastful bird, I guess because, you know, it's quite showy. And then it has a line which I can't attempt to pronounce, but it's onomatopoeia basically for the peacock's call, and then it's intended for it to be obviously read aloud, I would say, and for the reader to be sort of participating in the book in that way as well. And so I'm going to talk about challenges of translation.